All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Chrysalis, a podcast by yours truly, Fanice Thompson. Today we have a guest with us, Miss Daria Sullivan. Say hello.
Hi, everyone.
So, today is just our introductory episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Today we're going to be talking about why we're doing this, because I'm sure there's plenty of people who are like, what is the point? So, we're going to talk about why we're doing this, what the purpose of this space is, what meaningful conversation means to us, things like that. So, all right, let's get started. Basically, you all, I chose this space, the chrysalis, which, if you all are not familiar, a chrysalis is the structure in which a caterpillar forms into a butterfly. And I thought that image sort of helped bring in this spirit of transformation for me. Transformation, I want people to think of this podcast as a sacred space, a place where you can work through your thoughts, fears, anxieties, existential wonders, anything, with the end game of walking away from each of these episodes feeling sort of spiritually renewed or like you have a new perspective on your situation or someone else's situation. Who knows? This is not a religious space, so this is not Christian radio, none of that. you know,
I mean, no shade. At
no
Christian
shade,
radio,
no
no
shade, Christians.
shade.
You all are great, but
I'm not sure, but
yeah, this is not. It's not a religious space, but it is a spiritual one. So treat it with care, I suppose, is what we're gonna do here. Um, all right, so
I'm glad you made that distinction, Denise,
yeah,
of like religious versus spiritual, because I think for some people's reference point, like maybe going from what you first said, someone could be like, oh, so this is religious. And just making the distinction between, like,
yeah,
I feel like it feels more welcoming and open. Like,
exactly. I don't want
it's-
anyone to feel like they aren't welcome or like they're being judged. This is probably the most judge-free zone
yeah,
you will
honestly.
probably
Go
incur on
first.
podcast on the Nation of
Land.
Podcasts. So
Okay.
welcome you all. Yeah, so meaningful conversation. Why now? Why this space? Why now? I kind of there's a lot of things actually. One is, I was told by someone. I can't think of who right now, but I was told by someone, you work with what you have, you take it, and you do the best you can. And I was like, what do I have right now? I have my computer. Me and my best friends always have these really amazing conversations. That's
Yeah.
something that I feel like I'm good at. So what can I do with that? And I was like, oh, a podcast. That's cool. So that was the basic impulse. But this want for a podcast stems from a deeper need or a deeper feeling of a need that there's a lot of people out here who are just going through the day to day and not really thinking about how the day to day actually affects them. I like to call it being on autopilot. It's very common, especially in this capitalistic society that we live in, because we're so concerned about productivity and how much money we're bringing in and all that stuff. So it's nice to check in and actually think about what you need, you actually as a human being need and want and feel. Yeah, so folks not being in tune with who they are, I think that is a huge problem. And I definitely think it relates to the circumstances of this world, which I am definitely not happy with. I think there's a lot of beautiful things going on, but there's a lot of really ugly, really selfish, really greedy, really superficial things going on in this world. And I just want to try and do my part to remedy that by creating this space for people to come and listen and think, oh, I've been through that too. Is that how? That's a good way to look at this. Wow. Okay, cool. And feel some sense of community, feel some sense of, I feel seen. And how else can you move forward through life, through problems without analyzing? There's really, unless you sit and reflect, how will you ever change and be better? I definitely I try to reflect as much as I can on my actions, not too much, because I think there's a side to that of like over analyzing that is not good for you and is not good
Yeah.
for your day to day. But a little bit of check in at the end of the day is good for me at least. How do you feel, Dari? Is that good for you?
Yeah, I think I love checking, like, also just being transparent. People, we're artists.
Yes, we
So,
are artists.
like, I always think of, like, check-ins with certain shows. Like, there was one show in particular, I won't drop the name. We'll protect that. But there was one show where we would all sit around in a circle at the top of rehearsal and do a check-in.
Mm-hmm.
And what I liked about it was that I felt like it gave me space to feel,
Mm.
and not just say I wouldn't say like I am happy. Okay, Benny's next. Like it was like I feel like we could use a metaphor, and I would just be like, okay. I remember one time my check-in looked like I said I feel like I'm in a body of water,
Mm.
and I'm forgetting how to swim, but I know how to swim.
Yeah.
And so like even despite like that logic, like I feel out of control and I'm panicking and I'm trying my best to stay above water, but I'm just in this fucking like body of water.
Yeah.
And I don't have any way to get ashore, or like I'm literally in the middle. And so like or even just being like I feel like the little plant that sits on my windowsill and like not having to kind of just like logic it out
Yeah.
in a way. And just like I think that's so important because that gets to the more like specificity of like the texture of your feelings.
Amen.
Rather than having to say like yeah, I'm fine, because
Yeah.
that's an escape of like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm fine. You touched base.
It's
Like,
such
what
a
does that
fast
mean?
answer. It's like, do people
Yeah.
even really think when they get asked? Because I know I don't. When I get asked, how are you? And I say, oh, I'm good. I don't think about it. I just say it.
Yeah.
It's not something that you actually sit and think, am I good? No, you just say that you
Right.
are. And
Right.
I think that's a beautiful word, giving texture, like to your emotions. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful way to put it.
I tend, when someone says, like, how are you? I notice that because of my training, like my performance training, like, and because of my experience going to Ghana, where I felt like everyone genuinely asked me that question. And it was like, before we go into whatever content you're trying to talk about, how are you?
Yeah.
Like that has made, all of those things have made me genuinely take pause before I answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes it's like a second follow-up pause because I'm like, oh girl, you're not in acting class right now. And this person doesn't really care. We're Americans here and keep it moving.
Oh my
because
God.
when we're walking and like we see someone on the street and usually it's like, hey girl, how you doing? It's like you can't even hear the tail end of how are you?
Yeah.
Because it's not really seeking a response. So sometimes when people ask me, I'm like, I take a pause to check in of how I feel, because I feel like that's what I've been taught in my training and my personal growth as a person with my experiences. But then it's like that follow-up pause of like, do they really want to know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's
Yeah,
getting
for sure.
at, a different component of like the culture we've created as Americans,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know if we want to change that culture. I don't
do.
know if it's
I do personally. Like, we definitely need to be more loving to one another and more open. Obviously, do I think everybody's gonna be all hunky dory singing kumbaya? No,
Not
I don't
quite.
think it will ever be that way.
Yeah.
But I do think like there's an intimacy that strangers have lost like over the years.
Yes.
Like there's no more intimacy barely between strangers. Like
Yes.
I remember times when I was a little kid and I'd be walking with my father and he'd say hi to like just a random guy and they'd get into a conversation,
Yes.
And
Where
it's like
is
people don't say
that?
hi anymore. Like when I'm here and I smile at people as I walk, here in New York, by the way, guys.
I was about to say,
I'm from DC originally. So I've been living here in New York since August, and I've noticed like when I'll walk past people and smile as if to say like hello, like how are you,
Right.
like acknowledging humans on the street that I pass. They like look at me like I'm crazy.
Like why is she
Like
doing
why is she
that?
smiling at me? She don't know me. And
That
it's
is
crazy
so real.
because I'm like I feel like we all crave that connection, but we just have gotten to a point where we just are so uncomfortable with it because we're like, that's not normal. Why are you trying to, I don't know you. Why are you trying to connect with me? And it's like, but that's what we need more than anything. Like, it really is.
And it's not, I feel like, giving yourself permission to have that need.
Yeah.
And having to also a survival, like you're in New York, a survival. I definitely feel survival when I get out on the street of New York of like, I need to pretend I'm hard. Which is so far from Daria, but it's just like, I need to be this person of like, don't stop to say excuse me because we're on a move and I got to protect myself and what I have. And there's so much lost in that protection because it's like all of us are doing that at the same time. You don't know what someone's going through. Like as soon as I came here at a Port Authority and I got an Uber, I was talking to the person on the phone. I could they had a very like heavy accent. I couldn't place it, but I got in the car and I was like, "Hi, how are you?" He was like, "I'm good, thank you." And I like it seemed like he was so thrown off by me like being present with my energy. And we like started talking, and I was just like, "Oh, look, where are you from?" And he started talking to me. He was from Guinea, and I was talking about Ghana, and we just like I started learning about his life, and I started talking about myself. I started talking about euphonies and all this stuff. And he was just like, it was an Uber pool, so we were picking someone up. He was like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm a Jersey girl. I'm from Jersey." And he was like, "Oh, okay. You'll notice when we pick someone up, like, New Yorkers aren't like that." He's like, "I give them 1 star or 0.
Oh my God.
He was just like, they come in your car
and they just act like you're not there.
Doing. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's like, it's really messed up. They don't say anything. They're not going to say, how are you?
I greet the other riders. Like, that's how I am. I'm like, I'm not going to get in this car that I'm riding in with these strangers and not say hello.
Silence. What are we doing? Are you okay?
Are you okay? Literally, are you okay? And
are you okay?
There's been times where, Daria, like, I've been on the metro and the air, I swear to God, there's, like, the air in New York City is different, and not in a sense of air quality, but in a sense of, like, you can literally feel the vibrations in the air. Like, there's just, it just feels like constant, like this, like, almost you can fucking see the waves as you walk down the street, because you just feel it. Like, it's very palpable, the energy here. And sometimes I will get on the train in the morning. Like, I really don't ride the train during rush hour anymore, because it got to a point where every time I would get on, I felt like I was going to pass out, because it just felt like there was so much crowded energy in that car, even if it wasn't crowded. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I ate, I'm okay. Why am I about to pass out? And it's literally just too much energy. Like, too much.
Yeah. Which I feel like is like anxiety.
Yeah. And everybody's angry and ready to, like, everybody's either angry or sleepy or, like, both. You know? So it's a lot. It's really hard to connect when you're, like, in that way. But we'll also talk about change and, like, how we change as human beings. It involves simply taking in information, new or otherwise, and acting accordingly. And I feel like, how else are we going to change if we don't take in new stuff and adjust accordingly? Like, that's what I mean, no one's perfect. Everybody's done messed up things to some degree, and how else will you grow out of it if you aren't being taught, oh, that's not okay, or oh, that is toxic, oh, that is hurtful, maybe I shouldn't do that, you know?
Right. That's unkind.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
I'm
unkind.
not being kind to myself.
Yeah.
Or others. I need to adjust.
And then I just also, like, in the community, specifically the Black community, but just the world, I just feel like there are so many young people who see a future, but it's, like, out of reach, you know? And I know I feel that way. Like, I see a future, but I don't know what it looks like, and it kind of scares me. And part of my doing this is to attempt to lay some foundation for a good future where we are actually aware and awake and thinking about what our lives mean to other people and to ourselves and to the actual planet. Sort of giving a space for, okay, yeah, I've been sad about this, but I don't think anybody else feels this way. Okay, listen to the Chrysalis. Oh, wow. Like, they feel this way too? Yeah. Okay, I'm not alone. You know? Right. Just ways to make people feel more hope because it's really hard to feel hopeful in a world that looks like this. And in America, we have it a lot better than most, but it's still hard to not feel like hopeless sometimes when you have so much stuff, so many obstacles in the way in terms of creating a solid future. Um, question: when do you find yourself not having meaningful conversation, and why do you think that is, Miss Daria?
I feel like I have a crystal ball when I'm like looking into it. I'm like, why do I feel this way? When do I encounter this? I mean, I feel like when I'm not living in my purpose and I'm not living in my truth authentically, for me personally, like I have a perfectionist mentality, and I'm a Libra moon, Scorpio sun. Let's bring that in there.
Just so y'all know, Libra moon, Scorpio sun.
Oh my and part of being like Libra qualities is all about this idea of balance, which because when I first found that out, I was like, how do I work? I'm not understanding, like I'm not getting it. And then I just realized like I constantly seek the balance of things.
Yeah.
And I realized in seeking that is the connection to my perfectionist mentality. Because when you have true balance, it's perfect. And you can't get that. That's not life, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and so when we're constantly trying to live in this balance where nothing is unequal of an equal weight. I think I'm constantly chasing perfection for that very reason, because I want to feel that feeling of balance, but that's not life.
Yeah.
And that's not realistic. And so I feel this all or nothing mentality a lot of times, and it sprinkles into different areas of my life. And I think that includes in the connections I feel to people, because I have felt genuine, real, solid connection with people. I feel like I have been fortunate enough to look someone in their eyes and truly see them and be seen.
Yeah.
And not just have that in one person, but multiple people, Fenice included. And I think when you get that, sometimes my perfectionist mentality is like, well, it ain't that, so I'm not taking time with it. You know?
Yeah.
And so, like, at work, for example, like working in corporate America for my 6-month stint with temping, I feel like there were times where I'm like, you know what? This is going to be manufactured. This isn't going to be, excuse me, like a real conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to tap into how I'm really feeling. So I'm feeling fine. I'm great, John. And it's like, oh my God, Susan, we're great. Oh my God, yes. I love the project we're working on next week. It's like, I don't give a flying bleep about whatever that is. But I feel like capitalism, okay, you know, also like feeds into this mentality of like having to, you know, you can't, when you're at work and someone is like, oh yeah, like this thing is coming up next week, you can't do an honest check-in. Like that could cost you your job. If you do an honest check-in in that moment and be like, yeah, I'm really dreading that. You're like, oh really? You're really dreading that paycheck too, I guess, Fenice and Daria, you know? So it has to be, like, I call myself all the time at work, like, people being like, yes, and we have this thing coming up next week, and being like, oh my God, like, I can't wait for that. Oh my God, I'm looking forward to chatting soon. Like, what am I supposed to say? Oh yeah, I dread talking to you, boss.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
like,
hard.
you can't, I don't know the space to have honest check-ins in the workplace.
Yeah.
Because there's true cost to your job, which is your moneymaker, which spreads out to having time for honest check-ins with loved ones, because part of me being able to see Fenice is having the money to take the bus here, to take the Uber to your place.
Isn't capitalism great, guys?
You know,
and capitalism is so
everything.
functional and healthy. Wow, it's really effective. There is no wage gap at all.
You know? You know?
It's crazy, you guys. We'll definitely delve into that on another episode, I promise, because it is an episode and probably 2 all its own.
Oh, truly.
But,
truly.
Yeah.
When do you feel like you're not having meaningful connections, and like why do you think that is?
I feel like oftentimes in the particularly something that comes to mind is college and like those
Academia.
auxiliary acquaintances that are kind of friends, but like,
Ooh,
you
a
know,
word.
like there's
Oh my
kind
god.
of friends, but you don't let them into your intimate world, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Like with you, Brendan, and Maya, like you all knew things that nobody else knew, and that just was
Sacred
that,
space.
you know?
Yeah.
Maya and Brendan will be featured on a future episode as well.
Of
Stay tuned.
course.
But yeah, instances like those where I feel like this person already has like this view of me where I'm like this happy person, like this nice person, so I'm gonna be nice to them for this next couple minutes and then I'm gonna move
Yes.
on.
Because
You
it's
know?
Venice. It's
Yeah. And I'm like,
Daria.
it was weird because like when I would go to certain spaces, like I'd have to like check in, check out. Like I'd have to clock in, clock out almost.
Oh
Like
my
I'm like, this is how
goodness.
much time I'm gonna give myself in this space and then I'm leaving. Like I'm not gonna give myself
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get stuck in this space because getting stuck there would be agony for me. I'm for those listening, I am not a fan of small talk.
Ooh, ooh.
I
Let's
really
get that out
am
there.
not.
We need
And that's
to.
not to say that like there isn't meaningful small talk. Like there's little cute,
Yeah.
little tiny conversations you could have with the lady at the corner. Like I love those moments, but even those to me have more depth than a face to face conversation with somebody who's like happy go lucky and you're not really feeling it. Like I'm not really feeling happy go lucky, but I'm smiling anyway. Like I don't like those moments because to me they're draining emotionally and the reason why I don't have those conversations often is because I actively don't allow them. Like I
Yeah.
don't make room for them. I don't really like and is that good or bad? Who knows? But I try to protect my energy as much as I can. Just mental health wise, like that's something I'll be talking about a lot in this podcast too. But my mental health, like that's something I have to prioritize and I have to prioritize my energy to make sure that my mental health stays um, I suppose in some kind of healthy balance because it's never perfect, but it's,
Right.
you know, sometimes I have it in check. And
Yeah.
like in order to try and keep having it in check, I make sure that my energy is not messed with. Like I make sure that there aren't people that I don't trust with my energy in the room. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
people that are nice, so nice, but then I'll get in a space with them and I feel like I'm not me or I feel like tired of like listening. As sad as that seems, like I'll find myself checking out of the conversation, like I'll find myself thinking about other things. And I try my best to be present when I'm speaking with people. So doing that is just like, that's me telling myself, like, this is not for you. And
Yeah.
that's not to say that I think that higher conversation is it. Like, that's the only type of conversation you can have. That doesn't make sense. That's not realistic.
That's also can be exhausting
It's
to
exhausting.
constantly fully check in. You don't
Yeah.
always need that.
And it takes away the value of, again, those little exchanges that do matter.
Right.
So I'm open to both. I just, when it comes to sharing extended amounts of space, if someone wants to talk, I don't really like small talk. So if they want to talk about something deep, I'm always down. Like if they bring up most of the time, and I think we can kind of segue, um, is like where this all started, this check-in, this safe space. Like in college, myself, Daria, and two of our other best friends, it was originally just one of them before we met the fourth, but we would all just sit, the three of us, and just talk about our day.
Yeah.
And that's how it would start. And then it would veer off into us talking about our childhoods. And then it would
Life
veer off
itself.
into us talking shit about something else, you know? Like it would go everywhere and nowhere at the same time. But I always left the space feeling like, wow, I feel better. Like I feel good. I feel happy. I feel secure.
I feel full. I
Yeah.
feel full.
And those check-ins always meant a lot to me. And you all were always like, that made me feel so much better. And I'm like, that's good. That's what I want. I want people to feel better about crappy things that they're going through. And I don't want people to feel like they don't have anybody they can talk to because that's so important. And considering that not everyone has access to a therapist or can afford a therapist, it's nice to have those moments in your day-to-day when you can, where you can actually sit and talk about things that hurt you or help you or make you happy or make you sad, or that you wonder about. Um,
I feel like what you're getting to is like feeling seen. Well,
Yeah.
that's what I think about when I think of those conversations and meaningful conversations in general. Like I remember when I first got to college in undergrad, it was like one of my like first weeks there,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember being like, I went up to my dorm room and I just like cried by myself.
Daria,
And I was
baby Daria.
Freshy Frost Daria was crying in the dorm. And I don't even know what triggered it. I remember listening to like Summertime Sadness.
Oh my
I
God,
got
Lana Del
the
Rey.
summertime sadness.
Oh,
Oh. Like that was a jam.
summertime. It
And
really
that was like my freshman year of college when that jam was out.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember listening to it like so dramatic, like with my Scorpio water sign ass in the dark. Just being like, I'm feeling all of the feelings right now. Like I was on a show of just like, I'm in my feelings. And I remember going downstairs. It was like 6 p.m. And I remember going downstairs and being like, no one knows what just took place.
Yeah.
And if I was back home and I was around people like trusted energies, they could see it all over my face because I'm not good at hiding my face.
Yeah.
And they would be able to see like I'm not okay. But just being in a space where I was like, no one knows me. You know, when you first get to undergrad and you don't know people like that, it's just like no one knows me. No one knows that I was just crying, and I just feel like you just never know. Like as you know, maybe like corny as it sounds or like oversaid, it's just like you really don't know what someone's going through.
You don't.
And I feel like the older I'm getting, the more that like these things that have been said over and over throughout my life that we've heard are being more and more anchored and solidified in truth.
Anchored.
You know?
Yes.
Because it's like you hear things all the time, you're like, okay, mom and dad. Okay, old lady on the corner. Okay, auntie. You know, it's like you better do good in school. You better get a job. You better whatever. But like that feels like something to me of like you never know what someone's going through because you never know how someone's day looked or how someone's life looks. Like I know I have taken for granted a lot in my life, like the peace I find in my home, even in the dysfunction of like this is still a family unit. And even though we have some shit, and we in the black community, and things need to change, child, communication. Where's it at? Communication, losing it. But, you know, we are still here, and it's still love. Yeah. It's still rooted in love. And I have that as an anchor in my life. And even that, like, I take for granted that, and some other people were like, really, like, I don't have that. And, like, that's my norm. That's where I'm coming from. And just being like, and sometimes I feel the blessings in my life, and I'm just like, I have no reason not to be a positive energy.
Yeah.
I have no excuse. Like, I don't get the right to be crabby. I don't get that right. Because, you know, Black Jesus.
You do get the right when you feel it. You can be crabby, but like
that's very true.
For no reason, I understand that.
All the time, general no, like a crabby person.
Yeah, no.
I'm not a crabby person, and I don't think I get to be like I'm a crab. Because some people who are crabby all the time, like that's your descriptor word.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder where that comes from.
Yeah, I do too.
You know, I really wonder where that comes from. You probably have every right to be that crabby all the time. Like, if I was dealt those cards, I'd probably feel the same.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just like, that wasn't for me. I have an exchange.
Yes.
And I get the wind
Amen.
of that.
That wasn't for me.
Yeah, and like, that wasn't for me. Moving on. Mm-hmm. That wasn't for me.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Well, I think we're wrapping up, kids. I really appreciate you all taking the time to listen to this. This space is going to be really informal. We're just here talking. I'll tell you a little bit about us just quickly before we go. 23-year-old college dropout, majored in theater. Yeah,
I love it.
College wasn't for me, you all. I really had to pick between my mental health, like my life, and debt, so I chose my life.
I love it.
I
love this song.
You know, that's it. And we will have another episode that delves into the culture of, quote, higher education. And what that means and what really is going on in higher education in terms of how the students are feeling. But Yeah, theater arts major. I trained at two schools for over the course of 4 years. So I do have a lot of training. I just don't have a degree, which is fine because training is what matters in this field. I'm an actress. I like to write. I like to sing. I like to um, write screenplays. Like I've just been dabbling. So I just consider myself an artist first and foremost, so that I'm not put in a box. And I can do whatever the spirit moves me to do. And right now, the spirit has moved me to make this space. And I'm so thankful for Daria to be here. And feel free to tell them something about yourselves before we go.
Okay, I'm Daria M. Sullivan, and I met Fenice at Pitt. That's where we went to school. And my degree is in theater arts and communication. I've been experiencing post-grad for the past 2 years. Have bounced around a bit, done some temping here and there. I definitely am an actor first before everything. That's my first love. I will always go back to that. But I really want to get into self-producing and writing, just creating my own work and my own content. So that's my next step for right now. And we're just trusting the journey right now, and
Amen.
what's meant for us will be. And Miss Maya said, your blessings are secured.
Your blessings are secured, y'all.
Thank you, Miss Maya.
And when I use words like blessing and amen, even though it is religious affiliated, to me it means different. Like, blessings can come in any form. It doesn't have to be because of God. It can just be something that is given, you know?
Right.
And saying amen, it's just a way to affirm a sacred thought. That's it. Yeah, thank you all so much for being here. Yeah. And I look forward to speaking to you next episode. Our next episode will be delving into... we'll be delving into academia.
Ooh,
higher education.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll talk about what that means and
a relationship to it.
We're gonna bring the facts, bring all the receipts, all of that, you all. So thank you so much and enjoy your day.
Bye.
Your blessings are secured, y'all. All right, y'all, that's all we got for today, okay? So we'll see you next time on our next episode. All right, y'all. Thank you.